This is an iHeart podcast.
Wells Fargo seeks broad impact in their communities, focused on supporting customers and communities through housing affordability, small business growth, financial health, and more. Donated over $2 billion to strengthen local communities over the last 5 years. Wells Fargo, the bank of doing. Learn more at wellsfargo.com/saydo. Support includes contributions from Wells Fargo and Company, Wells Fargo Bank N.A., and the Wells Fargo Foundation.
The NBC Nightly News.
Legacy isn't handed down.
Or NBC News. I'm Tom Brokaw.
We hope to see you back here.
I'm Lester Holt.
It's carried forward.
Tom Yamas is there for us.
Firefighters are still working around the clock.
As the world changes, we look for what endures.
We are coming on the air with breaking news right now.
We look for a constant. And from one era to the next, trust is the anchor.
For NBC Nightly News, I'm Tom Yamas.
A new chapter begins. NBC Nightly News with Tom Yamas. Evenings on NBC.
Hello, from Wonder Media Network, I'm Jenny Kaplan, and this is Womanica. This month we're talking about outsiders, women who marched to the beat of their own drum and rejected stereotypes about what women should be. They're aesthetic pioneers, norm benders, and often some of the only women in their field. A woman sits in a prison cell. It's dark and cold, but there's a fire inside her, and it pushes her to write. Letters, philosophical treatises, speeches, and political pamphlets. She's perpetually overflowing with revolutionary ideas. They often get her into trouble, but she invites controversy if it means changing the world. Today's Womanican was an economist, a philosopher, a public speaker, and a revolutionary. No matter how many times she was confined behind bars, she never swayed from her commitment to freedom for workers around the world. Let's talk about Rosa Luxemburg. Rosa was born on March 5, 1871 in southeastern Poland, which was part of the Russian Empire at the time. She was the youngest of 5 in a lower-middle-class Jewish family. When Rosa was a toddler, her family moved to Warsaw. She fell ill with a hip disease not long after. Her condition was wrongly diagnosed and was treated as tuberculosis. Consequently, Rosa developed a lifelong limp. While in bed recovering, she taught herself how to read and write. Rosa's family spoke Polish and German in the house, and Rosa also learned Russian and eventually French. At the age of 13, Rosa was admitted into one of the elite Russian high schools in Warsaw, an impressive feat considering there were very few spots for Polish and Jewish students. During her teen years, Rosa's anti-establishment attitude began to blossom. She openly rejected Russian authority in Poland, attending clandestine and illegal meetings of the Polish Socialist Party. The group was not only anti-Russian, but also anti-bourgeoisie and anti-capitalist. Rosa became a fully fledged Marxist. She continued to excel in school, but was denied the gold medal typically given to top students because of her, quote, rebellious attitude towards authorities. In the late 1880s, Rosa helped organize a series of general strikes, but the Russian government cracked down hard on these actions, executing 4 leaders of the Socialist Party and arresting many more. Due to her involvement in the party, Rosa was also wanted for arrest. So in 1889, with the help of a friend, she smuggled herself out of Warsaw and made the risky journey to Zurich, Switzerland. When she arrived, she enrolled in the University of Zurich to study law and politics, eventually earning a doctorate in 1897. While living and studying in Switzerland, Rosa attended gatherings with other Marxist expats from Poland. That's how she met fellow revolutionary Leo Jogiches. Together, they founded a socialist newspaper, The Workers' Cause, and a new political party, Social Democracy of the Kingdom of Poland, or SDKP. Their group opposed the campaign for Polish independence from Russia, arguing that socialist energies were better spent on an expansive transnational revolution of the working class. During this period, Rosa and Leo also became romantically involved. Still in her late teens, Rosa already demonstrated a rare gift for translating her philosophical and academic ideas into real political action. When she wasn't speaking and debating at party meetings, She was writing for political publications, building out her grand vision for a global Marxist revolution. In 1898, Rosa moved to Berlin to be part of the world's largest socialist party at the time, Germany's SPD. In order to gain citizenship, she staged a sham marriage to a German friend's son. In Berlin, Rosa was in community with the biggest players of the Marxist movement, and she quickly rose through the ranks of the SPD to become one of those prominent thinkers herself. When the First Russian Revolution broke out in 1905, Rosa smuggled herself back into Poland to aid in the struggle. She was captured and jailed, the first of several periods of her life spent behind bars. While in prison, she wrote extensively on the power of the masses and strikes, sometimes directly corresponding with famed Bolshevik leader Vladimir Lenin himself. The revolution happening outside the prison walls had captured her imagination, and she called it an act of world historical significance whose traces will not be extinguished for eons. Despite the reputation she earned among her peers as Bloody Rosa for her support of the violent uprising in Russia, she was also a woman who could exude extreme empathy. She once wrote a letter to a friend about watching a prison guard beat a buffalo hauling a wagon of clothing. I stood before it, and the beast looked at me. Tears were running down my face. They were his tears. When she was finally released from jail, she fled to Finland to meet Vladimir Lenin in person. They had established a friendly rapport, even if they disagreed on many philosophical ideas. During this visit, she also wrote one of her most influential pamphlets, The Mass Strike, the Party, and Trade Unions. In 1907, she returned to Germany and began teaching at the SPD's Berlin Training Center. Her classes included Introduction to Economics and Marx's Kapital. In 1913, she published one of her most impressive and noteworthy theoretical pieces, The Accumulation of Capital. The book served to set Rosa further apart from SPD leadership, who did not share her critique of German imperialism. Rosa also butted heads with the SPD on how to handle the rising tensions leading up to World War I, and argued that a general workers' strike could prevent war. Her anti-war stance was not popular with the SPD, and she was iced out of her own party. Popular socialist publications stopped printing her articles. On July 28, 1914, World War I officially began. Rosa was disgusted with the SPD after the majority of members voted in support of war credits. She had become an outsider in the party. This galvanized Rosa to start her own political group, the Spartacus League. The group was anti-war and anti-capitalist and focused on building an international alliance of workers. The group printed and distributed pamphlets and urged Germany's labor unions to strike against the war. This kind of organizing did not go over well with the German government, and Rosa spent most of the war behind bars. But imprisonment didn't stop her from writing and smuggling out her anti-war pamphlets. In 1916, she wrote one of her most famous texts, The Crisis of Social Democracy, also known as the Junius pamphlet for the pseudonym she published it under. By the time she was released from prison in 1918, the war was over and the German Empire had fallen. The new Weimar government was being forged out of the ashes of the war, and Rosa didn't like how it was forming. The Spartacus League, with Rosa and her comrades at the helm, organized the Spartacus Uprising. In January of 1919, 100,000 workers protested in Berlin. The Free Corps, a loose organization of conservative anti-communist paramilitary groups, were called in to violently put down the revolt and killed roughly 100 protesters. The bloody demonstration made Rosa even more of a target of the government. She briefly went into hiding but was discovered by the Free Corps on January 15, 1919. She was shot on sight and her body was thrown into a canal. She was found months later when her body washed ashore. Rosa was 47 years old and still at the height of her influence when she was murdered. A true radical and outsider, she never compromised her message even when it meant risking her life. Her last written words were, "Tomorrow the revolution will rise up again, clashing its weapons, and to your horror it will proclaim with trumpets blazing, I was, I am, I shall be." All month we're talking about outsiders. For more information, find us on Facebook and Instagram at Womanica Podcast. Special thanks to Liz Kaplan, my favorite sister and co-creator. Talk to you tomorrow.
Explore the winding halls of historical true crime with Holly Fry and Maria Tremarchi, hosts of Criminalia, as they uncover curious cases from the past. The legend of the highwayman suggests men dominated the field, but tell that to Lady Catherine Ferrers, known as the Wicked Lady, who terrorized England in the mid-1600s. Her legend persists nearly 400 years after her death. Highwaymen are in the hot seat this season. Find more crime and cocktails on Criminalia. Listen to Criminalia on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm Jake Hanrahan, journalist and documentary filmmaker. Away Days is my new project, reporting on countercultures on the fringes of society all across the world. Live from the underground, you'll discover no-rules fighting, Japanese street racing, Brazilian favela life, and much more. All real, completely uncensored. Listen to the Away Days podcast, reporting from the underbelly, on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is an iHeart podcast.